Oh yeah. This is Phil, and this is episode 2 of our classic Doctor Who reviews. And today we're going to be looking at a real classic, guys. A real classic. Let me turn that off before I get in trouble. BBC, I'm poor. Don't sue me. But yeah, we're going to be looking at our second episode of Doctor Who from the classic series starring William Hartnell. As you can see right there on the side, the whole shebang is usually called the Daleks, although it also has another name, the Mutants, but almost nobody calls it by the Mutants anymore. It's usually all called the Daleks, and it's quite long, and it's quite epic, and it's quite classic. And if you're a fan of Doctor Who, you gotta watch this one. But before anything, like and subscribe to the page so you'll know when another video comes out. And I think you gotta click on a little bell up top so you get notifications. So do that if you want. I mean, I would want to. I mean, who else is reviewing Doctor Who on the internet? Classic Doctor Who. You know, who else is that crazy? So let's get to it. And also at the bottom there, you can see my blog is brazusa.wordpress.com. You can find all sorts of reviews over there for all sorts of movies, plus just my daily life here in Brazil. So we are going to get to it, guys. And like I said in the last video, old Doctor Who or classic Doctor Who, it follows a different pattern than New Who in that it was split up in a lot of mini episodes that were about 24 minutes more or less each one. And this one here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes. So it's very long. If you think, they're more than 20 episodes each, you're going to get almost 2 hours worth of, or more, worth of Doctor Who if you watch this serial. So it's a lot to watch. And in a lot of information to take in. It was written by Terry Nation, the serial, but it's a whole lot of fun. Although towards the end, and we'll get there, I think it falters a little bit, but the first 4 or 5 episodes are awesome. And guys, this came out right after the An Unearthly Child, which I guess, it was successful enough, but it didn't really create that buzz. And this just exploded, when the Daleks came out, and right around Christmas time. So probably just in enough time for the Christmas rush. Not sure, but it, the first episode premiered there on December 21st, and then it went, from the 28th, January 4th, all the way to February 1st of 1964. This created a huge marketing push for the BBC. They loved it, but ironically, Sidney Newman, who was the head of BBC Drama at the time, he actually was really against it. Verity Lambert, she was one of the producers at the time, and he said that he laid down some rules for her, and that she was absolutely not going to have any bug-eyed monsters on this show. None of those things that you usually see in these outer space shows, okay, or any nonsense science fiction stuff. So he was not happy when she came up with this idea of the Daleks, and then Terry Nation obviously wrote the story, and how wrong he was, right? And he admits it there at the end of this little blurb. But yeah, it's one of those things. Who knew that these weird-looking little things would be such a pop culture phenomenon? Such a part, such a British institution, right? It's the Dalek. It's as British as maybe Spock is for America, in terms of in the sci-fi realm. So it's kind of funny that they weren't really something that was that they were happy about. It was a little bit frowned upon that the Daleks were going to come out, but they came out. And we're so happy because we love the Daleks, even though the last season of Doctor Who. Oh no, it did have one Dalek episode in the end. Um, they were trying to move away from some of the classic monsters, but you can't stay away from the Daleks for too long. There's a few chunks of classic Doctor Who where the Daleks don't show up, which is fine, but you always got to go back to them in one way or another. I mean, they're so awesome, right, guys? I love them. I love them to death. So what stands out for me in this episode is that for the first time, well, I mean, it's only the second episode, but really for the first time, they're on a truly alien planet. We truly feel like, okay, Doctor Who is a sci-fi show. Because it was sort of marketed as an educational show for kids. This time traveling guy, which I think is why the first episode, has them going back to the caveman time, Paleolithic time. But it was so boring, But you'll notice as we go through the season that usually the episodes go back and forth from something a lot more sci-fi, real, monsters and robots and high-tech alien planets, to something more historical. I think we're going to visit Marco Polo, and they visit the Aztecs. There's even an episode where they end up in the Old West. So they kind of, earthquake. They kind of go back and forth from the sci-fi to the historical, weird sci-fi to the historical, and I think that's a cool balance. But it didn't always make everybody happy because it's supposed to be an educational show for kids, not some brain dead adventure for the children. Although Doctor Who is anything but brain dead, but you understand what I'm trying to say. But this episode, right from the door, it connects again from the end of the last episode. Remember when the little Geiger counter went up and it said that the radiation was very high, but they didn't notice it? They go outside to investigate. They see this little iguana-looking thing. It's covered in metal, and they're wondering what's going on. The forest is all petrified. Seems like everybody's alone. And they walk around and they see a city. And this is our first look at Scarrow. For me, it's exciting. I don't know about you, but as a Doctor Who fan, come on. This is exciting stuff. You see it out in the background. Obviously, either a painted set or, a miniature. But it still gives you this wow feeling. This is the origin story, more or less. We do get a few more origin stories for the Daleks later on in the show. But for all intents and purposes, this is the Dalek origin story. With the first Doctor in there is Scarrow out by itself, like Las Vegas in the middle of the desert. And also, what we get a little bit in this show is a little bit more Doctor Who tech. I love Who tech. We got the cool little binoculars, that they use to check out Scarrow. But then inside the TARDIS, they go back inside. They're a little bit hungry, and the Doctor makes them something to eat in the food replicator, which is kind of cool. Stuff that later would show up on another very popular, iconic sci-fi series of the time. Guys, I can't not mention Star Trek in some of these early episodes because Star Trek borrowed a lot of stuff from Doctor Who. I think it's impossible that Gene Roddenberry wasn't influenced by Doctor Who. We'll see even more stuff in a few later episodes that are, ended up on Star Trek. And also good and important to note is that in this whole little going to see the planet, going outside the TARDIS and seeing Scarrow, the Doctor really wants to go down there. And also, Susan feels like somebody put their hand on her. Nobody believes her, so she's a little hysterical. So we got a few elements going on. The Doctor wanting to go to the planet, and everybody's like, oh, go down to the city. They're already on the planet. And Ian and Barbara are like, no way. We don't want, it could be dangerous. We want to get back home. And there's possibly somebody else on the planet with them, very close to the TARDIS. And for me, that's where you see the Hartnell. I'm so in love with this, with his portrayal of the Doctor. He's just wild. He's crazy. He's got the hair's all insane. He's definitely got the mad scientist feel to him in this version of the Doctor. And he's scheming something. He wants to get down to this planet because that's just like what he likes to do. He likes to explore. And we find out very quickly that this Doctor is a schemer and he's a liar. I don't know how well that would play for today's audiences, but for that time it worked, and he goes there under the TARDIS, unscrews a little something, takes it out, while everybody else is looking, because he's like, all right, yeah, we're going to leave. We'll leave. No problem. He plays with some switches. While they're all like looking up, like, ooh, we're leaving, he takes a little something from under there, and then later he tells Ian, hey man, we can't leave. Look, this thing busted, and we need some mercury. And where's the only place we can find mercury? Oh, down in Scaros. I'm like, yeah, Doctor Who, badass, smart, little nuts, but hey. That's him. That's the character. You either love it or hate it. I love it. Okay? So it ends up that, yeah, they're going to Scarrow. And we see now it's definitely a miniature of Scarrow, but still cool to see these shots of the planet. Because, again, the show, 63 we say? Doesn't have the highest budget, but they still made it look good, for the time. It's not something embarrassingly bad. Obviously, we're talking 2019 today. You're going to look at it, you give yourself a little chuckle. But at no point does it feel like, they were doing this on a total shoestring budget. And it's not very long after that. I'm not going to go through every plot detail, just like the stuff that stood out to me. Towards the end of the first serial, which is The Dead Planet, we get our first look at the plunger of death. The plunger that will terrorize our lives and our television screens, and the Doctor and his companions and galaxies and planets for 50 plus years. It shows up, and Barbara is the first one to see it. And you can see she's totally terrified. Who wouldn't be terrified if they saw a plunger coming at them? Of course, we know that behind that plunger are those terrifying little creatures, the Daleks. And there they are. Oh my God! I think they're adorable. I mean, they're evil. They're terribly evil, but they're adorable. So we get our first look at these little guys. And they got that voice that you expect, that didn't change. There's a few things about the Daleks that do change through time. So, what is canon in Doctor Who? Who knows? You just kind of go with it. I believe these Daleks, they can only move because they've somehow managed to get like static electricity going through the floor. And that's an important plot point because it's what helps the Doctor and the companions stop them from moving. They kind of need the energy from where they are to move around. But whatever, we just take it for what it is. This is the origin of the Daleks. So come on, man. And they do capture the Doctor, and we get the sense that the Doctor did not know them. This is their very, very first meeting. And there's a great picture there that I found online. I had taken a screenshot, but then if I find a picture that's not better online, why not? And they want to question him. And they're not on exterminate mode yet. They're going to get there. But it ends up that, that little hand that our friend Susan had felt on her shoulder is very important to the Daleks, because the Daleks feel that there's another race on the planet, a race that they had been at war with. Oh, there's my dog back there. No, you're not allowed to sleep on the bed. All right, he's gonna get away with it for now. Um, so they want to question the doctor. They think he's one of these aliens. They're called the Thals, by the way, Thal. Um, so, which could, perhaps is that another influence for Gene Roddenberry, because he does have Talos, so could be, who knows? But these are the Thals. Let me see something here. It is, because I always make a mistake with the name. No, Talos. Talos 4. I always say Thalos, but it's not Thalos. It's Talos and the Talosians, which are going to show up tonight in Star Trek Discovery. So look out for that YouTube cast that's coming next. But these are the Thals that are on the planet, and we'll get a look at them in a little bit. But for now, we just got a lot of Daleks, man. They did not spare any expense, right? Like Mr. Hammond, spare no expense. Dalek everywhere. And they're so creepy and so cool. And I love them, okay? That's why I just have images of the Daleks there for us to all enjoy. But there's a problem, right? Remember there was that Geiger counter situation with the radiation? Well, it seems that everybody's got radiation sickness, okay? So not only are they trapped there with the Daleks, they're all dying, more or less. So what's the only way to save them? They got to send old Susan out, because Ian tried to run from the Daleks, and they just, shot at him, and his legs are all screwed up. And Barbara's feeling really sick. I mean, she's all dizzy. And the doctor, he's totally screwed. So Susan is, the only one that's somewhat strong enough to go back to the TARDIS to get some antidotes for the radiation, which, by the way, had been left there by a Thal, whatever, by a Thal. Oh, I suck at all these weird alien names. Wait till you get to the names of all these aliens. Oh, my God. But, yeah, she goes back there, and she has to get that because the doctor looked at the little box that had been left outside the TARDIS, and he's like, oh, well, we'll inspect these later. Leave it in the TARDIS. Not thinking that the planet was full of radiation, which it is. So Susan runs back. And the whole sequence where she comes back, guys, top notch. Watch that if you can. It's very horror-esque. And again, I think there were some parents groups that were really upset with Doctor Who because it's supposed to be a kids show, and it's some scary stuff. I mean, for our taste today, it's probably not as scary, but for 1963, and you imagine you're a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and you're watching it, you're probably getting freaked out, like, oh my God, So when I watch old shows, old movies, whatever it is, anything that's old, I try to put myself in the mentality of these people, like what they were feeling watching it, and it makes the experience of watching it, I think, even more fulfilling than it already is, because you're imagining, being a 7-year-old kid just being freaked out by these monsters. But as she's leaving the TARDIS, she runs into these weird ass. Oh, I said I wasn't gonna curse. People, okay? Aliens called the Thals, okay? And the first Thal she meets, let me see if I can get this name right. Aladdin, not Aladdin, but Aladdin, okay? And then he realizes that, hey, maybe the Daleks want the radiation treatment for themselves because, they got hit by the radiation, because apparently there was this big war and they set off this bomb, neutron bomb, whatever it was. So everybody's radiated, but these guys seem to be looking all right. You know, the Daleks said that they were mutants, but it could be that, you know, it's the kind of cliche sci-fi trope. You know, the very ugly alien thinks that the very good-looking ones is some sort of mutation. But they don't look like they're suffering that much, despite their mutation. So, you know, it is what it is. And so, but he gives Susan an extra batch of the radiation medication, and she runs off, you know, because obviously the Daleks are going to take the one that she had gone back for. That was the whole reason why they let her go. And then we meet some more of these Thals. We get Ganatus. Is that how you pronounce his name? Alidon. Elion is the leader. He's the older guy. Alidon is like second in command. And Ganatus, well, we'll see what happens with them soon. And then we got this young girl, Dione. Dione Warwick? Okay, Dione. And Dione is weird, man. I don't get what they're trying to do with her character. But, you know, she's like, why did you let the girl take it and not a man? And he's like, well, the men were all locked up. And there's this weird sexist vibe to this race of aliens, the Thals, you know, where the women definitely know their place, and their place ain't doing anything incredible. So I don't get it, especially because after, you know, when Barbara shows up, I mean, I'm kind of jumping ahead. Ganatus, you know, he sees that she's very independent, and she even says something like, oh, well, Ian always says to be very careful, don't take any chances or unnecessary risks. And he says, well, do you always do what Ian says? And she's like, no. So are they, you know, pro-woman independence, or, you know, women shouldn't be carrying back medication and going on dangerous missions? Who knows? But it is kind of weird, and it's not the only, you know, line in this line of dialogue among the Thals that feels very dated in that sense. And speaking of lines of dialogue, this is one of the first episodes. I mean, at least I didn't notice any in Unearthly Child, but where you get the Doctor, or William Hartnell, making some mistakes in his dialogue, which he's kind of famous for, and he makes a lot more in the later seasons. You know, he's an older gentleman, and a lot of times they could only do one take, so you only have the chance to get it right once. And it's great where he just corrects himself. I think he gets Ian's name wrong, and Ian corrects him. And yeah, that cracks me up, you know. Chesterton, I'm terrible with names. To say I would be a good doctor because I can't remember people's names, and I can watch a movie like 3 times and I'm still like, oh, what was the supporting character's name? I'm terrible with that. But he calls him something else, like Chesterton, Chester something. And Ian's like, I'm going to be really upset if you don't get my name right. And it's Chesterton. And the doctor looks at him and says, oh, yeah, Chesterton. Of course, my dear boy. My dear boy. He says that a lot. My dear boy, my young man. But he plays it off like, you know, I'm thinking about other stuff. I don't got time to remember what your name is. So all power to him, because that's me. I don't got time to remember people's names all the time. Another thing that we get in this episode is we find out some more uses for the plunger hand that the Daleks use. Sorry, guys, I got something in my eyes. And one of them is picking up paper. And because they get Susan to write something there, and what they're saying is, hey, you go back, tell the Thals that we're willing to make peace. You know, in fact, if they want, they can come back here. We got food for them because we have this artificial sunlight. We can grow fruits and et cetera, et cetera. So They send the letter out. Signed, Susan. Okay? But in the meantime, they're trying to get the heck out of there. Because remember, the companions have been trapped. And they come up with this weird scheme to leave this little room. And that's the cool thing about Classic Who, is how much they can do with so little. I mean, this is already what, maybe the third episode or the third in the series, and they spent the majority of it inside this little room, and yet managed to make it very dramatic, exciting, and all those things that nowadays you need a lot of explosions and running here, running there, snazzy editing and all that stuff. No, they're just 4 characters stuck in a room. They come up with a plan, which, I mean, I'm not going to go into detail about what the plan is, but they get the Dalek, and they take whatever's inside the Dalek out. Ian plays it so well, because he looks inside, and there's like, girls, go over to the door, you know, and him and the doctor look at whatever's in there, and like, oh, man. So it's cool. Your imagination goes to work, because you're like, what is that? And then Ian jumps inside the Dalek, which is awesome. And this happens a little bit in Classic Who. And I'm drawing a blank now. I don't know if in New Who, if the Daleks are constructed in a way where their casing is constructed in a way where people can go inside. I'm not sure. We'll get there. Hey, let's pretend that it's a first-time watch with some of these things. I can't remember everything about Doctor Who. But definitely, there's enough space for him to go in there this time after they take out whatever's inside. And we get a little bit of a cliffhanger-ish thing at the end of this episode where you see the little hand. The hand comes out. Wait. Where's my hand? You know, the little Dalek hand. And it's freaky, man. Freaky. So you get this idea that, whoa, the robots aren't really, you know, what's scary. What's scary is what's inside the robot. And we won't get to see that until much later in Doctor Who. But the seeds are sown. And, man, there's a lot of running around, going here, trying to escape. And eventually, you know, they all do escape on the slowest elevator ever. Okay? It's really, really slow. But they managed to get out, and they deliver this message to the Thals. You know, the message had already been delivered. So the Thal leader, which I believe was Elion, he goes and tries to talk to the Daleks, but the Daleks just kill him, you know. And it's a weird scene because Ian is standing right there watching him talk, and Ian kind of knows that it's a trap, and he's just watching him talk, and he waits until he's done talking. And then the Daleks come out, and then they start shooting, and then he's like, go back, it's a trap. And I'm like, man, you knew it was a trap like 10 minutes ago, and you just let the dude just talk, totally expose himself. Weird scene, okay? But anyway, boom, they blast his ass, and they all escape, and now we kind of find out a little bit more about the Thals. And for me, this is where this episode, when I say episode, I'm talking about story, like the Daleks. You know, we said there's like 7 episodes within the story. But for me, this is where it falls apart a little bit because, you know, they focus a lot on these Thals, and I really could care less about them. I mean, the short stories that they're like these space hippies now, you know, they used to be a warrior race, but now they don't want to fight. You know, they're like, well, if the Daleks come, you know, if they figure out some way to come out here into the forest, because right now they're kind of just stuck in the city, we'll just find another place to go. We'll go back to the plateau. Well, you know, Daleks can't really go up. But for the most part, they're like space hippies, you know. And Ian's like, you know, very British attitude, which I like. Yo, you got to fight for your right to live, man. You can't just sit back and let these aggressors keep coming onto your land. So obviously an allegory. Fritz, look at that. That's my dog Fritz sitting on the bed again. Shouldn't be doing that. He's taking advantage of the fact that I'm occupied doing something else. Smart dog. Anyway, um, yeah, obvious allegory to, Hitler coming, and everybody kind of laying down for him, but the Brits were like, no, you ain't coming up here, right? Or if you're coming up here, we're ready. So I like that. I like that attitude. And he does eventually get the Thals to agree to fight. But then back in the city center, one of my favorite, I mean, this cracks me up so much. Listen to this. Listen to this. So it's a very weird scene, which, I mean, obviously I can't capture the video. I mean, I guess I could, but, a little bit above my pay grade. But it starts with this Dalek just tripping out. I mean, you can kind of see there he's seeing multiple Daleks and he's spinning in this little room. So it ends up that the radiation medication is actually having a negative effect on the Daleks because they have adapted to radiation because they're so evil, and this scene just cracks me the heck up, man. It's so funny when you just see the Daleks spinning around and having this bad trip, like, help, where am I? Anybody who's ever had a bad trip, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this leads to a very important plot turn, whatever, where all the Daleks, they kind of realize, yo, we actually need the radiation. And actually radiation levels have been going down on the planet. So if we want to survive as a race, we got to get the radiation up. So let's explode another bomb. Let's do something. And they come up with this plan to just spread more radiation onto the planet. And we get to see more plunger use, as you can see in that little picture over there. Okay, I'm practicing my fingers because on this camera here, I'm obviously backwards, so I can't say over there, which is where I'm looking, when the picture's actually over there. And you get some more Dalek plunger action, man. And then, which is, I mean, these are the best parts of the episode. More Daleks, more fun. But unfortunately, we have more Thals, more like, what? We get this whirlpool scene where dude is chilling by the edge of the water there, and a whirlpool shows up, and this planet is kind of weird. I can't really figure it out, because it's supposed to be a dead planet, but there's noises, there's creatures out in the woods, and they're all afraid to be walking out in the forest together. So who knows? It's kind of, this part I don't think was very well written of this episode, and it's towards like what I think maybe episode 6, or I'm talking about segments, chapters to the episode. For me, not the strongest. I kind of just tough it out, but not the strongest. Not bad either. I mean, it kind of moves along reasonably well. And we do get the seeds of a little bit of romance there with Gennadis, whatever, and Barbara. And Barbara, if you can see, she's a third person there in that line of people. She's got the pants on and everything. So, I don't know, something freaky went down, which is cool, man. It's cool. 1963, women can do whatever they want, So, hip, hip, hooray. Hip, hip, hooray. Yeah, my camera's like over here today. Hip, hip, hooray to Doctor Who for letting the women do it for themselves. Yeah. But what's going on is that they realize, hey, there's got to be an underground way into the city. They find that underground way. And then there's this whole scene where they got to jump across a little gap there, a little chasm. And for me, it's like boring. It's like, just get to it. But they got space to fill. They got to fill in some space. So that's what happens. I'm much more interested in what's going on with the Doctor, because the Doctor's just going nuts. He's like he's breaking shit. Okay, sorry for the bad word, but he's breaking stuff, which is great. I mean, he's a madman, and he even uses his keys. Like, man, I can make another one if I got to. I don't know how you're gonna get into the TARDIS without the key, but whatever. And he's breaking the communication devices, the satellites, through this little, I don't know, electrical box, whatever the hell it is. But the Doctor makes a rookie mistake, man. He's like, Susan, don't you see what I just did? Susan's like, man, we got to get out of here. It's like, don't you see what I just did? I just knocked out their whole power grid. Well, guess what? The Daleks arrive. So, early Doctor Who, man, also, you see that there's this tendency of going around in circles, but at least it's entertaining. It doesn't feel like you're going around in circles, but they really are, because they get captured again by the Daleks. You see them there, Indian style, and then eventually tied up to the wall. Not tied up, maybe metaled up to the wall. It's pretty funny, though, how second episode now where they escape, get captured, but it's just the way it is. But the Thals, they're coming. They're coming to help the Doctor. Well, they didn't even know they were captured, but, they're coming to help anyway. They're trying to find the command center because they realize, hey, these things are controlled by a central force. If we knock that out, we knock them out. And there's this weird fight. It's very anticlimactic. You do see one of the Thals get badly injured or dead there. And for a Dalek attack at the time, what they would do is they would show like a negative, and that would be the effect of the big strong weapon coming out of the Daleks. And this little end sequence does have one of my favorite death scenes, though. As you can see there, the little eye thing goes up. It's very dramatic. Listen to me. Yeah, stop all the power from wasting. Yeah. So after the Dalek goes, then that little thing just goes up, and it's so funny, and it's so dramatic, and I never thought that the Daleks were that dramatic. But he asked the Doctors, like, man, stop the energy draining, because if not, it's going to be into the Daleks. And the Doctor, man, he's cold. He's gangster. He's like, man, even if I knew, even if I wanted to, I don't know how to. So, F you, more or less. He doesn't even ask, well, where's the button? Where's the main console? So already from the start, we see that this is a very hardcore Doctor compared to the softer ones of these days. But even in classic Who, eventually they soften the Doctor up a little bit more. But this one's like, man, the universe will be better without you, more or less. So, which I think is just out there. But it works. I mean, it's great. Yeah, I mean, who needs the Daleks in the universe? They're just pure evil. And we got a very dramatic death scene out of it. And then, yeah, it's a happy ending, Ganatis and Barbara show a little bit of affection, which sets a precedent for companions who, after their first or maybe their second trip, really throw themselves into the idea that, hey, now I'm part of this, and I'm going to live my life, and I'm going to fall in love, I'm going to become an adventurer, I'm going to do whatever I want to in these exotic and foreign lands. So it's cute, you know. He gives her a little a little kiss on the hand. She gives him a little peck on the cheek, and he's absolutely in love. Sorry, guys. Well, anyway, I forget I'm on camera sometimes. And another precedent for this show is the fact that the TARDIS just doesn't work, man. This machine does not work. I remember watching Doctor Who when I was a kid, maybe 12 or 13. It was the Tom Baker years. And one thing I remember is that this TARDIS just never worked. They wrote a little bit of that into New Who, but for the most part, the TARDIS gets you where you want to go in New Who, and it even does some cool stuff traveling through the cities and like traveling like an actual spaceship, and not going through dimensions, which is awesome. I think it's really cool. But from my early years watching Doctor Who, I don't remember that thing ever working. I remember one time it got stuck in the shape of an organ or a piano or something. Yeah, so this is part of the Doctor Who tradition, is that this thing just does not get you where you need to be. And I think, later they kind of wrote it as the TARDIS kind of wants to take you where you should be. But at this time, I don't think so. I think it was just, hey, it's going to be funny if this TARDIS doesn't work, and it's what's going to keep both Ian and Barbara on the show longer as companions and keep the adventure every week as surprise. Who knows where we're going to land next. But, that's the rundown of the show, guys. This video is a little bit longer than the last one, but that's because this is a much longer episode. We have, a lot more time. Maybe 140 minutes or more of, probably more of Doctor Who. So almost movie length. It's a movie length story with a whole lot of stuff, but it's a 5 out of 5, and I'll tell you why. Because it's just, it lays so much groundwork, and it does it so well. The story moves so well. At the end, like I said, there's a little bit of a lag when they focus too much on the Thals. For me, they were not a very interesting alien race, but every minute that they're on Scarrow and the threat of the Daleks is a minute that I love. And if any of you are true fans, well, I shouldn't say that. I hate when people say true fans. But if any of you are fans of Doctor Who and obviously the Daleks, and are only accustomed to what we've seen since, 2005 that the new Doctor Who adventures began, sometime around, I think, 2005. If you're only accustomed to that and just want to take a trip down memory lane, watch this episode, this story, because I think it's very, very entertaining. It holds up. It's full of action and twists and turns, and it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. So we managed to get through 2 episodes. I'll be watching some more and making some more podcasts. I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget, follow me at brazuza.wordpress.com. Hopefully by the time this is all done, I'll have a Facebook page up, classic Doctor Who reviews. So look for that. I'll probably make one, probably before I make the next video, or maybe sometime soon I'll make it, okay? It doesn't take that long to make a Facebook group page. So I'll do that. And once I do that, I'll leave a link there to how to connect to it, okay? Thank you, guys. Look at that, 44 minutes. That's not too bad, right? Have fun, and till next time. Bye-bye. I'm going to go yell at my dog now because he's sleeping on my bed. See you.